Okay, hello everybody. Welcome back from the break. I hope everyone had a really good break. Um, and today is the 12th, and I think that we have only 3 classes left. So we'll try to cover as much important Python as we can. Let's see, how many people? Okay. So does anybody have any questions before we continue? Okay, let me share my screen. I want to announce that you are going to have a final project. And I want to give some clarification about that right now. So, pardon me. So we will have a final project, and it can be a web scraping project. And I will give you a little bit more information about different ways that you can accomplish that. I have a series of videos that you can go through and do the project according to those videos, or you can follow along in our book. There's actually we're going to cover a little bit of that in this coming week's material, and you can use that to do web scraping. Or there's another set of projects that you can consider, and I'm going to show you those now. And so here is here. So these are just kind of fun, but you can do any of his projects here. So this is a YouTube channel called Programming Hero. And anyway, you're not limited to doing just these projects. You can also find other projects on the web, but some of these are a little bit fun. So here's one, the first one: don't buy a security camera. You can build your own. So, a security camera is supposed to detect whether people are walking around your house or walking around outside of your house or something like that. And he shows you how to use Python and AI to do the same thing with just a regular camera, like your regular PC camera, or maybe some other camera that you can connect to your PC. So, and it's not a very difficult project in terms of the Python code that you need to do. Here he has another one called don't type email, create your own email bot. So I guess that's when you can have a Python code that will sort of automatically answer your emails, I think, or something like that. Here's another one: don't buy Alexa, build your own, create a virtual assistant. Or this one, or that one, maybe I can't recommend that. And some other ones: automate WhatsApp. Don't buy an audio book. You can build your own audio book. So anyway, there are a bunch of projects here, and these would be acceptable for your final project. As I said, you can also do web scraping, and we'll be talking about different options in terms of web scraping. Web scraping is very powerful. Basically, it allows you to go to a website and collect and scrape data from the website. And we learned at the beginning of the semester, we learned some basic HTML and CSS. So that is enough for you to use Python to scrape the web. And that means you can kind of collect a lot of data, and then you can kind of analyze it. Maybe you can graph it. You can understand it. after you scrape the data. And as I said, I have some videos on that which you can use to do a project, or there are probably some other ones. Now, if you do things other than these projects or other than the scraping project that I have on my videos, I want you to send me a request so that I can review what you're going to do. So I'll put a forum up on our Manaba. I'll do that after class today. And you can, if you have a project that you want to do other than these, or the scraping project that I have described in my videos, then you can suggest that, and I will review it and okay it or not okay it. Okay. Are there any questions so far? So this is going to be due the last, I think it's going to be due about February 2nd or 3rd, basically. Okay. But of course you can hand it in before that. Okay. Now in these videos, I saw that he uses, we've been using IDLE, we've been using this a lot to write our programs, but he uses Pycharm. So I thought we should just get used to Pycharm. It seems like a lot of instructional videos are use Pycharm. So it might be useful to get a little bit used to Pycharm. So I thought we can all try it out today a little bit. So let's download Pycharm and just see a little bit about how to use the Pycharm interface, because it's very powerful, but usually things that are very powerful means you have to learn how to use them. They have so many different options and so many different things you can do, and they have so many buttons on them that it seems confusing and you can't find out how to do what. So let's just take a quick look at Pycharm to get used to it. So let's go to, let's look up Pycharm. It's spelled Pycharm. So I want everybody to download this on your own system. And you go to download Pycharm. And they have a community. Now they seem to have a student version, but I tried, they had a student professor version, and I tried to download it, and it seemed like it was just going to give me this one. Well, it seems like it was going to give me 30 days free of this, but that's not really. Anyway, I don't think we need the professional version. So I think if you want to look for the student version later, you can do that. But right now, the community version should be just fine. So I guess you have to give them, well, you don't even have to give them your email. So you don't need to fill that in. It just, and now you can just open it up. And I guess I'll do it. I've already installed it on my computer, but let's see what happens. Open it up. And the installer starts. And you have to give it permission. And mine says, do I want to reinstall it? I guess I'll try to reinstall it. Let's see what happens. So you can just click next here and set the Pycharm Community Edition version that you want to uninstall. So I guess I have to uninstall mine. Okay. And uninstall silently setting. Okay. All right. then it begins to install. Mine is probably a little different than yours, so I guess I have to, okay. Well, mine is deleting, so I don't think you have to do that. Okay, now let's check to see where it's going to install. It's always a good idea to do that because then later on, well, sometimes it's hard to find out where these things are. So anyway, it's being installed on Windows in the Programs Files folder, and then they have a folder called JetBrains, which I guess is they're the owners of Pycharm. And then they have the Pycharm Community Edition. So it's just good to check that out. And actually, it uses a lot of space. It's almost a full gigabyte of space. But anyway, let's continue. Okay, now it says create a desktop shortcut. You don't need to do that. Update context menu, create Python association. So this is if you want to make all your Python files associated with Pycharm. So I don't think we need to do that. And it says update the path variable. That may be a good idea, but I'm not going to click that. It's probably a good idea, add launcher directories to the path. It's probably a good idea. I guess I'll do it. I think we've talked about the path variable. It was an environment variable, just to remind you. If you look up, this is, I guess, maybe only relevant for Windows, but if you look up, edit the system environment variables here, just to remind you, and you click here, and we have these variables. There's a path variable, and that just tells Windows where to search for certain programs. So it just gives a bunch of paths that Windows should check when it's searching for stuff. And you can edit it, or edit it, and you can see that there are certain paths in here that Windows is going to search through all the time when it's looking for stuff. So you can also add a new path in there with this. But anyway, we don't need to do that. But it seems like this is going to automatically add some directories to the path variable. But it says I'll have to restart my computer, which I'm not going to do. But anyway, let's see what happens. So let's go to next. And I guess just install it. So as I said, it's pretty big. And as I recall, it takes a while either to install or to open it. I can't remember which it was, but let's see what happens here, how long we have to wait. I don't want to spend too much time waiting. So while that is going on, I want to also talk about something, a tutorial, just while we're waiting for this to happen. So let's go to W3 Schools and look for the section on Python modules. So we've been using Python modules, but let's just talk about it a little bit. So if you want to go to W3 Schools to follow along with this, or you can just follow what I'm doing. It's still extracting, okay. So let's talk about Python modules. So we've been using modules. We always we've used this import statement before. We import a module, and we've done this. I think we've done this many times already. And a module is basically just a collection of functions or classes, or anyway, it's a collection of code that now it finished. Let's see. I want to manually reboot later. Okay, I'll choose that. I don't want to reboot my computer. Okay. And let's see now. Maybe I can open up Pycharm. Go to here. No. Go to Pycharm. Okay. So here it is, Pycharm. And by the way, this I don't think this, well, I don't think this installs Python. I think you have to have Python already installed, but I'm not sure about that. Okay, let's go to open this up. Now, maybe it was this part that took a long time to open. So I guess I think the first time it might take a while to open it. I'm not sure about that. But while that is happening, let's continue to talk about modules. So modules are just a bunch of code, or let's say just, oh, there it is, a bunch of functions that somebody else has written that may be useful for you. So instead of you having to write all those functions, you can just download their module. And I guess this was the part that took a long time. This takes a long time. So I'll wait. I'll continue with modules. Oh, maybe not so long. Okay. Okay, I'll just continue with modules for a moment while because it may be taking you longer than it took me. So as I said, modules are just a bunch of functions that somebody else has written so that you don't have to write it. And these functions can do all kinds of things, and they can be very useful. In fact, all of the projects that I suggested at this site are going to use different modules that make all of this stuff possible and easy to do. Obviously, if you had to write this code yourself to convert your camera, into an AI device that can recognize people, that's not going to be easy to do by yourself. But you can just import some modules that other people have written all the code, and then you can just use it. So that's the idea behind modules. So they are files that contain a whole bunch of code. And but you can write your own modules as well. So that's what I want to show you here. So here it says, what is a module? Consider a module to be the same as a code library. It's just a library of code, or just a file or collection of files that has some code in it or some functions that you can use. So a file containing a set of functions you want to include in your application. So you can create your own, of course, you can create your own module. To create a module, just save the code you want in a file with a file extension of .py. So for example, save this code in a file named mymodule.py. So let's see if we can do that in Pycharm. Let's see how well that is. Does anybody need more time to get Pycharm working? Okay, so Pycharm, first of all, they have these tips for you. So if you don't want to see the tips, you can ignore them. You can close it, or you can just say, don't show any tips. And then we have this interface here. So let's see, we have up here, we have the file menu, and it has new project. and new something, new whatever, and has open projects, settings, file properties, local history, blah, 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 export, print, and so on. Okay, so some people couldn't download it, so you can just watch what we're doing. Okay, so that's the file menu. Then we have the edit menus, has the standard stuff here. And has some other things like toggle case. I guess that means like from uppercase to lowercase. Duplicate lines, that might be convenient somewhere. Unindent a line, convert indents to spaces. Okay, different things like that. View, so that is going to change what we see here, I guess. Navigate. So there's I don't know what most of these are. Code. Let's see. You can wrap the lines. So that means if your lines go too far to the right, you can have it automatically wrap. So it fits on the page nicely. You can unwrap, I guess. Oh, unwrap, sorry. This might be useful. Comment with line comment. So you can just automatically comment, I guess, a bunch of lines. And what else is there? Okay, refactor, run. Okay, the run is to run our code. Tools, let's see, run, they have run, open, run, debug, run, attached to process. Okay. Tools, I don't know what that is. Windows, I guess, shows different tabs maybe. Okay. So does everyone have basically this showing up in their, so over here, let's see. Let me see what view, tool windows, project, favorite, appearance. I have the main menu. I have a navigation bar. I have tool windows bar. So these are all these different things, I guess, that we can show in this interface. Does everyone have this view over here on the left, or does it show something different for you? Does everyone have this on the left? Does everyone have this on the left?
Yes, Professor.
I don't hear anybody.
It's still loading for me, Professor.
Still loading what?
Like making the virtual environment. Oh, it's.
You mean you're still loading the interface?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, then I'll wait a little bit longer. So going back to our discussion about modules, we can just create a function here and save it in a file called my module. And as long as Python can find this, then you can do something like import my module. So again, we just write a function like this. What does this function do, by the way? It says it's called greeting. It has a parameter or a variable here. And then it does print hello and that variable. So I guess the way that you would run it is you would say greeting and you'd put in something here like Daisuke, and then it would run and it would say hello Daisuke. So anyway, but that's just a function, and we put it in this module, my module dot, I'm sorry, we put it in this file called mymodule.py. And as long as Python can find it, you can do import my module, and then you can use this pre-written function. So you don't have to write it yourself. So the way that we use it is we have to type my module, the name of the module that we just imported, and then the function. And then like this. Okay, so after we do that, of course, we would expect when we use this code, we would expect that it will print out, hello, Jonathan. Okay, okay, let's see. Variables in module. So the module can contain functions, as already described, but also variables of all types. Arrays, we didn't talk about arrays actually, dictionaries, and so on. So here we are creating a dictionary. Remember, see that this bracket here means that we're creating a dictionary, and it's called person1, and it has key value pairs. So we have a key and a value and a key and a value and a key and a value. So we're going to save that in the same my module. And then we can import my module again, and we can access this thing, person1, this dictionary, by doing my module dot person1. It was called person1, and then we can get the put in the age key, and we'll get out the age value. Okay, so we can do that, and then let's just see that. So we run this, we import my module with the new information in it, and then we run this, assign it to A and print A, and we get the age. Okay, naming a module. You can name the module whatever you like, but it must have the file extension .py. Now, there are things called modules, and then there are collections of modules. So you can have several different files in one folder, and that will be called a package. And then you can have several different packages inside another folder. So you can have a package, a package, a package, and that will be called a library. So that's what a library is. It's just a collection of packages, and a package is a collection of modules. And then there's also something called a framework, which is a whole bunch of libraries together. So you'll hear some things like, like maybe in these videos, he might refer to some framework. It just means a bunch of modules, really. Okay. So anyway, naming a module, you can name a module whatever you like as long as it has that. Renaming a module, you can create an alias when you import a module by using the as keyword. So for example, you can do this, import my module, but you can use an alias, so-called alias, if you write as something. So as mx. So instead of typing, before we had to type my module person, now we can type mx person. Okay, so just usually people use that just to make it less typing. So we can use mx instead of my module to reference the module. So here we have mx.person1. Okay, now it says there are several built-in modules in Python which you can import whenever you like. So import and use the platform module. And actually, I've never seen this one before, but maybe it's still here. Import platform, So, and then once you do that, you can access it, and you can access, apparently there's a system function in there, so you can access that. Let's see what it does. So here I see. I guess it tells you what system you're running. So I guess they're running Windows, or maybe I'm running Windows, but I think it's they are running Windows. Also, if you want to find out what is in a module, there's a built-in function to list all the function names or variable names in a module. So the dir function. So for example, suppose you import platform, which we just did up here. And you do now, after you've imported it, you do dir platform. And here they assign that to X, and then they print it. So that's going to show you all the variables and all the functions in this module. So I guess it shows it to us as a list. So there must be, I don't know if these are variables or functions. I guess there could be either one. So these are variables and or functions. And it shows us to them as a list. Okay. Now there are a few other options. You can import just certain functions from the module. So you can choose to import only certain parts from the module. You don't have to import everything by using the from keyword. The module named My Module has one function and one dictionary. This is what we have in our module so far. Import only the person one dictionary from the module. So if you just want to import person one, not this function, then you can do from my module import just person one. And then you'll have access to person one, but you won't have access to the function. So you can do that. Okay. Okay, does anybody have any questions about modules? Okay, so we've been using modules before, but you see now that you can write your own. The only thing is you have to figure out where to keep them so that you can access them. By the way, we also, at the beginning of the semester, we learned about like this, using the command prompt. We used, I think it was, I forget how we used it. Wasn't it? I think it was pip install. Didn't we do this in our class before? What was the right way to write this? I forget actually. Anybody remember? I think this is right. Anybody remember what the syntax for this is? Anybody? No? Okay, let me call on somebody. Just see what this, I'm going to ask you, what does this do? What is this supposed to do? So I will call on somebody. So how about this person? Edric. What will this do?
I'm not sure.
Uh-oh. Okay. How about Kyun Hanbui?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure either. It's for something. So.
Okay, I'll try one more. Kokoro.
I'm so sorry. I'm not sure.
Anybody?
Can I?
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Well, I think it's just checking is Python installed or not.
No, I didn't
No?
finish it. I can't actually, I don't actually remember the right thing to type here, but this is not the full statement.
Okay.
So does anybody, but I mean, we used this before, and I'm just wondering if anybody remembers how we used it.
Professor, can I try?
Yes.
It's used to install modules and frameworks. For example, you can write pip install Pygame, and it installs
Okay.
Pygame framework.
Okay. Pip install Pygame.
Yes.
Okay. So apparently there is a module called Pygame. Now, my computer doesn't have Pygames on it, so I can't use it in Python if it's not even on my computer, right? So what pip does is it downloads the modules from the internet. It doesn't, it's not, it downloads them and installs them in some directory. And then after that's done, then I can go to, I can use something like this. I could import whatever that was. What was it called? Pygame. I can import Pygame, but I can't import Pygame if it's not even on my computer. So pip, what pip does, and we used pip to install some modules, this will just go from the internet and install the modules on your computer. You can't use them if they're not even on your computer. So we have to install them first, and then we can import them into Python, into our Python session by using this. So that's what we did. We did this earlier, pip install. So we could do that, and that will just download and put these files in some directory, hopefully a directory that our computer can find them. Okay, so we did that before. Okay, let's go back to Pycharm. Hopefully that's up. So let me call on somebody, and I want you to share your screen and show us what your screen looks like. So let me try that. Let me allow sharing first. I think I have to stop sharing mine, and I have to allow sharing. Okay. Okay, now I'll call on somebody. So let me call on this person, Sue Bin Kim.
Yes, Professor.
Okay, can you share your screen and show us what your installation looks like?
Okay.
Remember, don't show everything on your screen unless you don't mind.
Can you see?
Ah, very good. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Okay. Does anybody have something different than this? Thank you. Okay, let me ask somebody else. How about Erika Iwasaki?
Yes.
Can you share your screen? Don't share everything, just share what you want us to see.
Can you
Okay,
see?
very good. Great. Okay. So thank you. All right, so we have, I think, approximately the right. So over here, this is like the, what do you call it? The, like this is the, I can't think, what do we call it? The browser, file browser. This is the file, like here, this is a file browser, and this is the file browser. So we can see what's in what we have available to us. And then over here, we can, this is the, where we can type our files. So I guess I can, yes?
I think you forgot to share your screen.
Ah, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, I have to do that. So where is that? Not there. How do I do that? Okay. Okay, so this over here is the file browser. So that's basically like this is. If you click here, you know, you can see the different files and so on. That's what this is. This is the file browser where you can see what's in your folder or folders. And over here is where you can type your code. So I guess we could go to File and New here. And then, actually, no, I don't want to do that. Let me try that again. File and New. Here. So why didn't it show me this before? Let me try that again. File, New here. Okay. So you get this, and you can create different types of files. So usually we want to create a Python file. So we would click this Python file, and then you can give it a name. So you could call it test2 or whatever you want to call it, and then hit enter. And that would be here, test2. And then you could start typing in here. Now I noticed when I use this that you don't seem to have to save this. It seems like it saves it automatically as soon as you type it, which is interesting. Most, I guess, I don't know, do most editors do that? I don't think so. But anyway, this seems to save it. You don't have to save it. So we could, for example, I could take this and just put it in there. Like that. Now it seems like I don't have to save it. But anyway, okay. And then also down here, you can see there are 3 greater than signs. That's called the Python chevron. And so that means we can type code here. For example, I could just type 5 + 8, and it will run that as though it were Python code. So it gives me 13. Okay, so but you select that down here. So you have the Python console here. It also gives you the terminal. So you can also select that. So that's the command line. So that's what I was using just earlier when I did the pip. So I could do pip install, and we said, what was it, Pygames or something like that. So you could run command line operations from here. I'm not going to do that. And I don't know what the rest of this is. So you can do the console here, and you can do the terminal here. And if you want to, so going back to the console, if you want to run this, let's say I want to do greeting okay, like that. And then if I want to run this code, hopefully this works. I guess greeting. Hope it works. I can try to run this. So I can either click up here, or I can go up here, or I can go to where was it? Run here and run it. Let's try. I want to run open stuff. No. I want to run this. Well, let's see what happens if I click here. Save open stuff. I don't know what this means. Well, let me just try this. So I don't know why I can't run this. Do I have to save it? Thought I didn't have to save anything. Maybe, no. Why doesn't this work? I want to go to run open stuff. Why is it doing that? Well, I'm not quite sure. Why is it defaulting to this open stuff? Save open stuff. Open stuff. Why is that happening? Maybe I have to click here? No. Let's try run this. Okay. Well, I'm not sure why this. Oh, I see. Now it's running test 2. Okay, maybe you have to do it first here. So you would right click on the file and run test 2. I don't think this is the only way to do this, but I can't figure out how else to do it. So run it like that, and then it runs it down here. And you can see the results down here. Okay, so you can see that it ran hello, John, which is what it was supposed to do. Okay, now I can go back here and run it again. Okay, so that's just a very quick introduction to Pycharm. And they do have on the website some training. So you can go first steps here. And you have create and first run your first project, debug your first project, test your first project, and so on. So you can do that, and you have get started and so on. And then can we go back there? Yeah, you can also, there's some videos, but actually I don't think these are what you'd want to view initially. And maybe this might be useful. Meet Pycharm. So get started with Pycharm. Config. Maybe this is too much though, actually. We don't need that. So I think that if you were going to look at this, you might want to do first steps and take a look at that. Okay, and that will give you some hints about how to use this Pycharm editor. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, so we've talked about modules. Now I want to quickly review file handling. So because the next chapter in our book is going to do something a little bit similar to file handling. So let's look at that. So file handling is an important part of any web application. Python has several functions for creating, reading, updating, and deleting files. So remember that we used the open function to access a file that was on our hard drive, on our computer. But one thing about the open function is that it doesn't actually open the function, open the file. It doesn't actually open the file. It just sort of points to the file, because the idea is that the file might be really huge and you don't necessarily want to open it in Python because it might just be too big. It might, Python might have a limited amount of memory, and maybe your file is bigger than even that memory. So that would just cause the the program Python to crash. So we don't want that to happen. So what we do is we just sort of get what they call a file handle, or just something that points to the file. And that's what open does. It doesn't actually open the file. It just gives you a handle to the file. So we can see that here. So if there's a file on our computer called demofile.txt, we can use open to access that file. And we can assign that to this. This is called a file handle. So now F is a file handle to this file. We can also use an extra argument in here, R and T. The R stands for read, and the T stands for that it's a text file. So, but you don't have to put that in there because those are the default values for the second argument. So you actually don't have to do that. And so this makes sure this will first of all, it'll make sure that the file exists. But if the file doesn't exist, you'll get an error here. Okay, let's go on. So suppose that our file has this text in it. So we can open it like this, but like I said, it doesn't actually open it. It just points to it. But we can run fread on it, and that will read the entire file into our memory, into the computer memory. So that's okay, except if the file is really big, then this could be a dangerous thing to do. So if the file is really huge, you wouldn't really want to do this. If the file is just this 3 lines, that's tiny, there's no problem at all in doing this. So if the file is small, you can just do f.read, and that will read the entire file, and then it will print the results. So we can see the results of that. So it just prints the whole thing. Okay. And then they mention here that if the file is located in a different directory, you have to say where the directory is. Like this, you have to say where the file is. It's in your D drive in a folder called My Files, and then here. Okay, and I think we need to use these kinds of delimiters to indicate you can't have, no, I'm not sure about that actually. I guess we just need this. Okay, so this, I guess this will work. Okay, so we can read the file like that. Now, on the other hand, if we only want to read part of the file, we can put in an argument into read. So in that case, we're not going to read the entire file. In this case, we're only going to read the first 5 characters of the file. So that's not many characters. So if we look at that, we see that we only got the word hello. Okay. But anyway, that's a little bit safer than reading the entire file. Okay, and then we also learned that we can just read 1 line at a time. So we can open the file for reading. And then we can use this, fread line, and that will just read 1 line at a time. And then, so here we're going to do fread line, and then we're going to do fread line again. Now, when you do this, it's going to remember that it already read the first line. And so this one will cause it to read the second line. So let's try that. So there's the first line, and here's the second line of this file. Okay, so it reads in 2 lines because we ran read line twice within the same session. Okay, now there's another option for reading the file, and that is to use the file handle in a for statement or in a loop. So to use the file handle, we saw that we can use f.readLine, and we can also use f.read. So those are 2 options, but there's another option here which is you can do for something in F and then print that. And this is going to read each line of F in a loop. So this is going to access the first line in F, and then it's going to loop around and access the second line in F, and then the third line if there is a third line, and so on. And it's going to print each one of these. So that's another way to read to see the contents of the file. So again, there's this way, read, there's read line, and there's this looping process where you use an index, can be anything you want to put here, and then you have the file handle here, and then whatever you called it here, you would print that here. So let's look at that. And here we can see the entire contents of this file because it loops through every line and it knows when to stop. So when you do this, it loops through every line and knows when the end of the file has been reached. So it knows that automatically. Now, they do tell us that whenever we open a file, we should always close it. So if we're going to do read line, I think actually this one, come to think of it, I think this automatically closes the, no, I take that back. Anyway, we should always close the file. So here we're closing the file. So we can do this and we get the first line and then we close the file. If you don't close the file, I forget exactly what kinds of problems it can cause, but it can cause some serious problems. What does it say there, by the way? You should always close the file. In some cases, due to buffering, changes made to a file may not show until you close the file. Anyway. Okay, and then we can also write to a file. So here we're going to write to this file. We're going to add some text to it. And this means append. So it means add onto what's already written. So if I do write, when I've opened it for appending, then this will add to what's already there, and then we close it at the end. Now, if you do this instead, if you open it for, sorry, now we're reading it. Sorry, okay. So we can okay, we won't do that. And then if you use this one though, instead of A here, if you use W instead of A here, then you're going to, you can do the same thing, write, you can write something, but you're going to delete everything that was there in the file before. So that's a dangerous thing to use, W, unless you want to rewrite the entire file. Okay, so, okay, you can also create files with this argument. So then you can open it and you will have a new file. Okay, you can also delete a file, but you have to import this library to use this. So you can, after you do that, you can use OS remove and you can delete it. And OS, you don't have to use pip for this because when you install Python, it's already, it brings it gives you this OS. Okay. So there are other things you can do. OS path exists for demo file. Check if the file exists and then delete it. Otherwise, else print the file does not exist. And there's also remove directory as part of, is another function in the OS module. Okay, So that is file handling. So that was a review of file handling. Now let's take a look at our text. So we have covered dictionaries. We didn't cover tuples, but tuples basically are like in mathematics. Everybody has learned that we can have something like x comma y, and sometimes we'll have something like 3 comma 4, right? And that's called an ordered pair. And usually when we have that, we're talking about having an XY plane. And we're talking about a point, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're talking about this point. And we say that that point has these coordinates. So we all know that, right? But this is called an ordered pair. And you can see why it's called an ordered pair. It's a pair because there's 2 of them. And it's ordered because it's not the same thing as 4, 3, right? This is not, these are different, right? We wouldn't say that these are the same. So it's ordered. The order matters. So we call it an ordered pair. So this is an ordered pair. But we can also, you know, actually, you could probably do something like this. So you can tell what I'm trying to draw here. Not very well, but I'm trying to draw 3 dimensions. So you could have 3 dimensions, and then we could say, well, here's a, you know, you go to here, maybe like that, and then go up to here, there, and then you go up a certain amount. So you go like 3 units this direction and 2 units this direction and 1 unit this direction. So that would be 3. What did I say? This is 2. And this is like 1. Say 1. So maybe that's where this point is. Maybe it's 3, 3, 2, 1. So then we would say the coordinates of this, point are 3, 2, 1. Okay, so that wouldn't be called an ordered pair because it's not a pair. So we would call it an ordered triple. So we could have ordered triples. But, you know, suppose we are not talking about trying to picture this in space or in the plane, but suppose we're talking about some variables like, let's say, the price of an apple and the diameter of an apple and the weight of an apple And what else can we talk about an apple? Color. Well, yeah, color. I'm using numbers here. What other number can I talk about with regard to an apple? Let's say the sugar content. And what else? Anybody think of something else about an apple? Something numeric about an apple? Price, diameter, weight, sugar content, carbohydrates, carbo. Okay, anyway, so we could talk about this about an apple. So I could put this into brackets like that, and I could say, okay, let's suppose I want to talk about this stuff about an apple. So like I have a particular apple here. Here's an apple. Okay, and I want to say, okay, for this particular apple, the price is 200 yen or 222 yen, and the diameter is 3 centimeters, and the weight is, I have no idea, what, 300 grams, and the sugar content is, let's say 0.15% or something, or 0.15, and the carbo is whatever, 0.20, something like that. So I could have that. So this would tell me the price, this would tell me the diameter, this would tell me the weight, this would tell me the sugar content, and this would tell me the carbohydrates. So I might want to have something like this. Of course, I can't visualize it anymore because I can only visualize things with 3, but that doesn't mean I'm not interested in something about an apple that has more than 3 things in it. So I might want to have more than just 3. So anyway, so this is called, well, this one we said is an ordered pair. This is called an ordered triple, and this is called a tuple, T-U-P-L-E, a tuple. So a tuple is something like this. It can have 2 things in it, can have 3 things in it, can have 5 things in it, can have 100 things in it. Okay, so that's called a tuple. So a tuple has these brackets around it. So it's like, this could also, we could also put this into a list or maybe something else, but we might not want, maybe we're not going to use a list. We're going to use this thing called a tuple. So a tuple is just another kind of structure in Python. Okay, and it has different ways to deal with it and different properties than a list. So maybe you don't want to use a list for some reason. A tuple is more appropriate. But anyway, this is basically what a tuple is. It's kind of like a list, but there are different things you can do with it than you can do with a list. So that is what I'm going to say about tuples right now. You can go through and read about them in more detail here, but I'll leave it at that. And then we talk about, the next chapter is about, chapter 11 is about regular expressions. We're not going to do that. But basically, regular expressions are a way to search. So, you can, if I open up Microsoft Word, and I have some document, let me try that again. Okay, let's see. So suppose I open up this document, which is going to take a little time to open up because it's about 400 pages. Okay, so suppose I open up this document and I want to search for something like, let's say I want to search for whatever. Anyway, of course we can search for stuff. So I can search for math. Well, it's going to take forever actually because this is huge. Oh, sorry, not there. I want to search here. Oh, well, this is a little bit big, so it's going to take time. But let's say I want to search for neural. Okay, so I search for that. And of course you can search for it. Okay, so of course you know about that. Well, regular expressions are just a very powerful way to search through files. So you can do amazing searches and replaces that you can't do anything like that in Microsoft Word, or if you're using a, anyway, it's very, very powerful. So if you want to learn how to do that, he teaches you the basics of regular expressions here. It's much more powerful than anything you can do in Word, or if you search on things on Google, you know, that's quite limited. But here you can do just incredibly powerful stuff with regular expressions, but we're not going to do that. So you can read that yourself. So we are going to do chapter 12 though, which is called network programming. And it's a little bit similar to files, working with files. The difference is that the files that we want to open up are on the network. In other words, on the internet. So we are sitting in our program in like Pycharm or whatever, and like here in the Python console, but we want to access a file not on our computer, not in our directories here on our computer, but rather on the internet. In other words, we want, you know, something that might be on some web page or whatever. It's just somewhere else, not here on our computer. It's maybe it's an APU file, a file on APU's computer, or a file on some news site, or whatever. We want to access that file. So if we want to scrape the web or a website, we have to get that page. So that this is the kind of thing that you need to do, you know, and anyway, to access any page or any file on the internet. Okay, so remember that if you look at a website, that's coming from some file on some other computer, some computer somewhere on the internet. Those computers are called servers. That because, you know, like I can't access a file on your computer, right? That would be a little bit of a problem for you. If I could just type in sort of the IP address of where you are, and I could just, you know, type in some code here and access a file on your computer, that would be a little bit of a problem for you. Or it wouldn't be a little bit, it'd be a big problem for you. So I can't just access every file on any computer on the internet. If you want to make files available on the internet, you have to set up a little server, what's called a server, on your computer, which you could easily do. And that would mean that you're going to, and then the files that are, a server is basically like a folder that has certain kinds of permissions on it. So you would set that up, and then any file in that folder I could access, or anybody, maybe anybody who had the right information could access that. Okay, so you could set that up if you wanted to, but you know, that's not something you would do for your entire computer. But you could set up a server on your computer if you wanted to. Anyway, there are lots of servers all over the internet. Any website is basically a server, and it has a bunch of files. And then when you type in the URL, for example, I type in this URL here, I'm accessing a file called index.html, and it's located on this server in a bunch of directories. So there's a directory called Runestone, and then there's another directory called books, another one called published. So in other words, there's Runestone, and books is inside Runestone, and then published is inside books, and then this is inside this, and then this page is inside there. So it's a folder on this server, and this is just some file there, and that's what I'm getting. I'm accessing it by typing in this address, and then I get it. I just get it means I open it up. I can read the contents of it. So I'm reading the contents of it, and it's usually written in HTML code. and then, but I don't see the HTML code here. I just see this web page because I'm using, what am I using to open up this file? I'm using, in this case, I'm using Microsoft Edge, but you could be using Google, or you could be using Safari or Firefox, but whatever, you're getting this file, but this file just contains HTML code. But when I access it, my browser doesn't give me the HTML code. I guess it could. If I want to see the HTML code, I guess I could go here and I could go to View Page Source, and that would let me see the HTML code. Of course, that's not really what I want to see, though. I could see this. So this, I could see this, but I mean, most people don't want to read this. But this is really what we're getting. When we access this page, this is what we're getting. But the browser says, okay, you want this, but you obviously don't want to see it like this. So I will display it according to the way the rules are. These are all rules for how to display it. So, for example, it says, this is a rule that says make this bold. So this is just a bunch of rules that the browser will use to display it. So I don't want to see this, I want to see this. So the browser just translates it to that. So that's all. So anyway, but anyway, we just talked about handling files on our computer. And then chapter 12 is how to get files from the internet. So that's what chapter 12 is about, how to get files from the internet. So let's look at it. Just close a few of these. Okay, so here it is. Oh, sorry. Okay, so here's chapter 12. And let's look at this. Okay, so we're talking about programs. We're going to write programs that will access files on the internet. So let's go on to the next page here.
Professor?
So when we access files on the internet, we have to use something. I can't just like talk to my browser and say, okay, open up. I mean, actually now we can do that, right? Like I can use, what is it? What is this thing called here? Like you can use Siri on your iPhone, or you can use Hey Google or Okay Google on your Android phone. And I forget what you got, Cortana. You can use Cortana here. Anyway, but basically I can't just say, open up a page, right? I have to say it in a very specific way, or I can't just type in here and say, open, open CNN. It's not going to work, right? That's not going to open CNN, right? I have to communicate in a very specific way, especially when I'm using Python to do this. So I can't just say Python open CNN. It's not going to work, right? It doesn't know what that means. So I have to use a very specific language to access pages on the internet. So the internet, was probably developed in the 80s and the 90s, and actually part of it was developed before that, like around the 50s, I think, or I think the 50s. But anyway, it was developed in the last century, and they had to write, they wanted to access different pages in different locations, but they had to have a very specific set of rules about how to write it, how to access it. Computers are not that smart. They need very clear statements to know what to do. So those set of clear statements are called HTTP for accessing things on the web. HTTP stands for hypertext, this kind of text here where we have links and stuff like that, that's called hypertext. So here we have a link, like here, this is a link. So that's called hypertext. So, so we want, so we, in order to access pages on the web, we have to use a set of rules, and that's called HTTP. It means Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Protocol just means a bunch of rules for doing something. So like they give the example of when your phone rings, you pick it up and there's kind of an unspoken rule, which is that you should say hello, right? So that's like that's part of the phone protocol, that when you pick up your phone, you say hello. So the same thing with HTTP. It's a set of rules. Okay. So so the network protocol that powers the web is actually quite simple, and there is built-in support in Python called sockets. Now we're going to do it with sockets at the beginning of this chapter, but then there are going to be sort of much easier ways to do it later. But doing sockets is sort of what happens even when you do it the so-called easier way. The easier way just means that you're going to use some modules, and those modules are going to do the socket part for you. So you don't have to deal with these things called sockets. But anyway, we want to start out by learning the sort of the most basic stuff, even though we don't always want to write things in terms of the most basic way. We might want to do it in a kind of easier way. So anyway, there are built-in support in Python for sockets, which makes it very easy to make network connections and retrieve data over the sockets in a Python program. So a socket is much like a file, except that a single socket provides a two-way connection between two programs. So a file, of course, is not a program, but when we are accessing files on the internet, we need, suppose there's a file here. There's a file here. What was it called? Well, anyway, this file happens to be called http.html. But and this is located on some computer that has this URL. But actually, to get to this file, this computer has to run a program, like to open it. To open it has to run a program to open it and to send it to us. So really, we can say that on the other side, that is over here on this computer, there's a program that has to run. So we have to communicate with that program. So a socket allows us to connect with that program. And of course, we are using a program ourselves. We're using like Python or something like that. So it's a kind of two-way connection between two programs. The program on the other side that has to open up this file, and the program on our side, like, for example, Python. Okay? So a socket is sort of like a file, except that it provides a connection between programs, but those programs access files, or one of the programs accesses a file. You can both read from and write to the same socket. So a socket is like a file handle, okay? And you can read or write to a socket. So if you open something to a socket, it is sent to the application at the other end of the socket. So if you read from the socket, you are given data which the other application has sent. So like I said, a socket is sort of like a file handle. Okay, what time do we finish? 1:50. All right,
Wait, sir.
Yeah.
There is another response going on now, so
Okay.
yeah.
All right, let's take a break for 2 minutes and then we'll continue.
Even bigger project, like a huge one, and you need multiple.
Okay, let's continue. So let's see how these sockets work. They're kind of like file handles. So let's see how they work. Let's see how we can access data, remote data on the internet. So let's go to the next page. So here is how we can use sockets to access a page. So it's kind of a little bit of trouble, but it's going to be easier than this. But this is what's happening so-called underneath the hood of the easier way. So let's study it from this very basic way first, and then we'll see an easier way to do it. So anyway, what's this doing? So let me call on somebody. So how about this person? Kokoro. So what is this doing? Okay, let me call on somebody else. Okay, Juhan, Chun. What is this doing? Just this, first line.
Void socket.
Yeah, what is that doing?
I don't know, sorry.
You don't know? We just talked about it. Okay, how about this person? Samantha. What is this doing?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure either.
Huh? We just finished talking about this whole subject for about 20 minutes. Okay. So TA, please make a note of these two unsures. Okay, let me ask somebody else. Okay, how about this person? Wei Ta Li.
Yes.
What is this first line doing? Okay, please
I'm
make
not
a
pretty
note.
sure.
Make a note of that, TA. Okay, let's try this person, Nilima. What does the first line do? Nilima.
Professor, can you hear me?
Yes.
It's basically for importing a socket library.
Sorry, say that again.
Can you hear me, Professor?
Yeah, say it again.
It's for importing a socket library.
Exactly. Right. It's for importing a module or a library called socket. I think maybe we'd use the word module, but library, I guess, is also okay. But I think module. So we're importing a module called socket. So there must be a file in our computer called socket. We're importing that. That has a bunch of functions in it. So we're going to use those here in this code. So that's this part you should be able to understand. The rest of it is confusing, but the first line is just importing that module. Okay? Okay, now once we import this module, we can use it. We can use the functions in it. So so there's a function in this module called okay, let me ask somebody. Okay, so Kajita, can you tell me the name of one function in this module? You should be able to tell me because you should see it here on the screen. There's a couple answers, but you should be able to see the answers. So Kajita. Okay, Kajita. Can you tell me the name of one function in this module?
Socket.
Yeah. Oh, what's the name of it?
Socket.
Socket. How do you know? Can you tell me why you say that? Okay, let me try somebody else. How about this person? Yamaguchi. Can you tell me the name of one function in the sockets module?
I think it's socket.
Okay, can you tell me the name of another one?
Another one. The side line, right? Connect.
Yes, very good. Okay, yeah. Why? Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, actually.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah. Okay, good. So anyway, remember how if we go back to modules, here. Oh, well, we don't have much time, do we? Okay, I don't have time. Anyway, so this is a function in the socket module. So socket.socket, and then who knows what this means, right? This is like too confusing for us to figure it out. Basically, this tells, our program kind of the style of the web address, but we don't know about that. And this tells it something else. Now I forget what this tells it. Anyway, we don't know how to. We don't know what this means. But what you should be able to say is that we're taking from the socket module. There apparently is a function called socket. Now we don't know what it really means, but we can at least say that there's a function called socket in the socket module. So how do we get to that function? We do the module name dot the function name. So that's what's happening here. Now what goes in here, who knows, right? That's too confusing for us. Okay, but anyway, we're using it. And now we're assigning it to this. Now, apparently this thing has a connect function, or actually a connect method. So mysock.connect, okay? And then again, we don't know what it means. We don't know how to use it, but but one thing we can say is that notice that there are two brackets here. And notice that there are two brackets here. Now, that's not usual. That's unusual. usually when we use a function like this one, we have one bracket and one bracket. Does everyone understand what I'm pointing out here? When we use a function, we only use one bracket here and one bracket here, right? Same thing like here. We're using a function, one bracket here, one bracket here, or here, one bracket here, and one bracket here for the print function, right? Or here, one bracket and one bracket. We only use one pair of brackets when we use a function. So what is going on here? Why are we using two brackets and two brackets? The reason is because the input into this function is here, right? Everyone understand that's the input. What is the input? It's a tuple. It's a tuple. We just finished talking about tuples here. So tuples are things like this, or things like this, or things like this. These are all called tuples. So the input into this connect function has to go inside this bracket and this bracket. And so we can see that the input is a tuple. So there we're using the concept of tuple because it's occurring here as the input to the connect function. Okay, so you can see that it's an ordered pair. There's only two in there, so it's an ordered pair, but we just call it a tuple. Okay, I guess we have to stop. But anyway, this is, he's sort of doing how to connect to this page. So we could just run this. Let me just, for the last thing, I'll just copy this and put it in here. Let's see what it looks like. So I'm going to go there. And it's just this here. Okay? It's from Romeo and Juliet. Some quote from Romeo and Juliet. Okay? So anyway, he's just getting that page, but he's doing this all in Python. He didn't just put it in a browser. This is a bunch of Python code, but he's going to get it and he's going to print it out. So that's what's going on here. He's writing Python code, which will do the same thing that your browser does. So you don't have to put this page in there. You could put in some other page. Now, I'm not sure if this will actually work if you put in some other page, but maybe it will. Let's try it very quickly. Let's try, I don't know what's going to happen if I do this, but let's just try this. Put this in. Actually, since it's HTTPS, it might not work, or it might not work for another reason. But, oh well, anyway, sorry. But you could try and put a different page in here. Probably won't work very well, but you could try it. Probably won't work. But anyway, the point is that that was just a web address. Okay? All right, so you're going to have to finish chapter 12 for homework next week. And that's going to teach you how to use Python to access access files elsewhere on the web. And that is basically what you need to scrape the web. Okay, that's all for today. So today we covered how to use Pycharm. We covered modules. We covered a little bit about tuples. And we started to talk about chapter 12. And we also covered, how to handle files. Okay, that's all.
Thank you.
Professor, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Are you going to upload the lecture video on Manaba again?
This lecture, today's?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yes, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
On Manaba. Okay, yes, I'll do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Professor,
Yes.
some student ask about whether you wanna upload the information about the final project on Manaba.
Okay, yes, I'll do that.
Yeah, thank you so much. And then
Thank
there
you.
are two students. They meet the first response because they say that at that time they are trying to download the Pycharm.
Yes.
So I'm not sure like whether should we okay for them to get the first response or
I'm sorry, you're not sure if what?
like whether we gonna let them like we're gonna count them at
No,
already.
they don't have to use Pycharm. I just wanted to show them how, because in those videos that he uses Pycharm, so I wanted them to be a little bit familiar with it. But no, they don't need to do that for class today.
Yeah, but like they meet the first response
They
because
need what?
they miss the first response because like they
Oh, I see. How about the second one?
and the second one they already submitted.
I see.
Yeah.
Why did they miss it?
Because like they said they're trying to download Pycharm at that time and they didn't notice the chat.
But we announced it, didn't we?
For the first one, no, we haven't announced.
Oh, we didn't announce it. Okay. All right, then they don't worry about it then.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dai.
Thank you, Professor. Have you heard anything from other professors?
No, I
about
sent that when I was with you, but they didn't. I'll try and get them. I think the way I sent it, they didn't understand how to open it. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I'll see if I can get them to do it though. Okay.
Thank you, Professor. See you later.
Bye.